You're in Braves country.
Howdy, Braves country. Mac McGee here with you, and we got a big series. Doesn't get any bigger than this. They got to get it together. I mean, there is no other word for it. They have got to get it together. Tonight, it is Bryce Elder Day, and we'll go over the rest of the series here in a minute. But what you see on your screen here is the pitching staff. And the reason why I wanted to hit that up, there's a couple of good reasons for that. And I want to go over some things that was shared over the last, 24 to 48 hours, just kind of in the Braves country community. It's some of the numbers that are just going to be absolutely shocking to you, that are going to kind of take you back as far as there's a number one. Let's go ahead and get the good over with, because we're going to do the good, bad, and ugly typically on these. So let's get the good over with, because it's not the biggest news in the world, but there is some reason for optimism.
What's all the shouting?
Okay, so the good. Alex Verdugo was called up yesterday. If you missed the alerts on it, Brian De La Cruz was sent down. I think a lot of people were wanting to know why did they go with De La Cruz going down when they could have sent Jared Kelenic down, and he's a left-handed bat as well. Verdugo and Jared Kelenic essentially played the same position. They're left-handed bats in the outfield. The biggest difference between the two is that I expect a much more professional at-bat from Verdugo. He's not going to be hitting a ton of home runs. Don't get me wrong on that one. But it's not like he's chopped liver either. He's a guy that they picked up in free agency just before the season started. And he has been on some good teams. Now, he's 28 years old. So, in theory, he's in his prime last year. But now, just realize this. He only batted .233. He had 13 home runs, 61 RBI. And you're talking about a guy that was on the New York Yankees, so he went to the postseason, he went to the World Series. And that was through, by the way, that's a full season. That was 559 at-bats. The year before, Alex Verdugo hit .264. The year before that, .280. The year before that, .289 and .308 and .294 respectively. So last year by far was his worst year, okay? And so when you take that into consideration, you're looking at a guy who last year did not mesh well with the Yankee offense, the Yankee Stadium, maybe it was the Yankee media. He's not going to have nearly that kind of issue going forward this year. Now, as far as his power numbers were about the same. He, in the years that I just mentioned, let's just start with 2019, but we're going to omit 2020 because it was the bubble ship year, right? It was the year that it wasn't a full season. But he hit 12 home runs in 2019, and then respectively going forward, it was 13, 11, 13, and 13. That's about what you can expect from him. Now, he's missed a month of the season, so you're talking about probably more realistic that he would be in the 10 home run range. But that's fine, because that's not what they're getting him for. They're getting him for a bat at the bottom of the order. I don't expect him to bat any higher than around 7th. That would probably be unless there's a rash of injuries. But typically, this is a guy that gets right-handed pitching, is going to start, and against left-handed pitching, it will probably be most of the time Stuart Fairchild right now. Now, that is until Ronald Acuna Jr. comes back. Against right-handed pitching, we will probably have a mix and match. You're probably going to see some days where it's Kelenic and Verdugo in the same lineup. You're probably going to see some days where they mix and match. They go, you know what, Kelenic, you need to sit. We're going to go ahead and start Stuart Fairchild against the lefty. Against the righty. What Kelenic brings to the table and Fairchild brings to the table on keeping them and not keeping De La Cruz up is very simple. They're much better base runners, and they're much better defensively. And when you have three guys who aren't hitting worth the damn, that really is what it comes down to. Now, the thing with Fairchild is he has no options left. So if the Braves, and one thing that they have figured out over the last several years is that they need depth, especially in the outfield positions. They need a lot of depth, because if you end up just DFAing everybody when someone comes up, it's really not conducive to what you're trying to get going here, which is get that offensive going, keep the depth going. So when you look at Acuna coming back, I'll say the next 3 to 4 weeks, that's when I would timetable it. You're looking at a team that's probably seeing this as, Kelenic, this is your last rodeo. You get a chance, and if you do not perform, you're probably going to be sent down to the minors to get yourself right. But as of right now, because they need his defense and his base running until Acuna comes back, it's no longer a straight up, because what you could see happening when Acuna comes back is what I'm getting to, is you could see a situation where, let's say it's Fairchild and Verdugo, in a true platoon system. You still have Eli White who can come off the bench as well, and Eli White can play the infield along with Nick Allen. But what you have is you have a situation where it would be very conducive to have them play a straight platoon, and then you keep someone else warmed up down there. If they decide to stay with Kelenic, let's say Kelenic starts clicking, then what you have a situation there is Stuart Fairchild is out of options. He would have to be DFA'd. So I think there's a very good chance that Fairchild and Verdugo stick with the club for the foreseeable future. And Kelenic, this is really his make or break moment. If he doesn't get it together, it's not like his career's over. He can get back down and figure it out in the minors. But Fairchild, if you DFA him, it's a big problem because he's not going to make it through waivers. And what you gave up, which wasn't a ton, but what you gave up to get him is going to be out the door, and you'll be back to square one if someone else gets injured. We expect Marcelo Ozuna to be in the lineup this weekend. We'll see. For those of y'all listening to the replay, this is being broadcasted live on YouTube, and we also have Facebook in here today at noon, and we're doing them at noon at the beginning of every series. And then what we have planned to do going forward is that on the first game of the series, we replay the audio, not the video, because it turns into too big of a nightmare from the end of the fact that we share this to all the radio stations that carry us. So it's just audio. So if you want to see the video, you can either watch it live or you can pull it back up later. And then on the other games, it's not the first game of the series, we're going to come in about 5 minutes before first pitch after we do the lineups and everything else that we do here. And we'll go over any news and notes and then get ready for first pitch. It's more conducive. Talked about this earlier this week, but we don't get a ton of views going into it when we've been doing this for a long time, starting these for about a half hour before the game starts, and we don't get a ton of views, and more people come in at the end, and then they ask the same questions that we just went over, and I don't really have time to do that because I'm trying to bring you the game. So I can answer a question here and there, but I can't go into depth on any of it because I'm focused on bringing you the game. That's my main priority, because not only are we being carrying on YouTube, but we're being carried on radio. And people are driving down the road, don't know what the hell I'm responding to anyways, but they've gotten used to the fact that if they want to ask a question, they can jump in the chat, on YouTube. But if they're listening to it on radio, I'm trying to bring what they can't see. I know on the YouTube side, you can usually see the game. I get that. Or see the version that we give you. It's not actually the game, but it's the AI version. But anyways, that's the good. I've been waiting for Verdugo to come up. I kind of figured he was going to come back up at the beginning of this homestand. We talked about it earlier in the week, and we ended up being right on that one. So Verdugo, we'll see what happens there. We're still waiting for announcement. Maybe we get the announcement this weekend, but Craig Kimbrell being added to the bullpen. And the thing that I want to talk about that is, and this is, well, we'll do the bad first. The bad is, well, the Braves, and this is specifically talking about the offense. The Braves, in 2023, they became the first team to slug 500 or better for a full season. It was actually 501. And this was shared by DOB on X. They currently have a 373 slugging percentage. Doesn't sound like a big difference, but it really is. And that's the same as the Miami Marlins, okay? The average Joe can't name two guys in their lineup, right? And they are tied with the Toronto Blue Jays for 18th in the majors in that category. Now, I get it. We're only just about 3 weeks into the season. Or I guess we are 3 weeks into the season. And I get it. baseball's a long season, but it's disheartening. And the quote by Matt Olson, I'll have to clean it up a little bit because he actually cursed, and he doesn't curse in front of the media. Now everybody says that he's always, he'll cuss up a storm on the field and everything, and joking around, all that kind of stuff. But in front of the media, he's always been very aware of who he's talking to and does not, let his hair down, so to speak. But he said this, and I quote, "We got to play better." And this was to the media. "We got to play better. There's no secret to that. Sure, we got a lot of games left, but we can't do this, fill in the blank, forever. We got to find a way to start playing better baseball all the way around." Now, you can point out a lot of things, but the offense has been, it has been stagnant at best. And that is the nicest thing that I can put out there. I do wonder about the leadership all the time. We talk about it all the time. But I thought this was very telling. And this comes from someone who's always been a Brian Snitker apologist. But DOB said that he wanted to share something with folks on Twitter, so I'm going to share it with y'all. Or X, whatever. He was telling a friend back in the spring of 2024, the Braves are absolutely going to miss Ron Washington. I know we've all talked about it. And they have missed him ever since 2024, the spring of 24, when they came back to spring training and Washington took the job out in California. And he said this team doesn't have a loud, swaggering player who's a leader and keeps it loose. And I've been saying that for a long time. They don't have, it doesn't have to, you don't even have to categorize it as an alpha. They just don't have a guy, especially in the everyday lineup. It's one thing to have the bulldog mentality from your pitchers. I believe Chris Sale has it. I believe Spencer Strider has it. I believe Spencer Schwellenbach has it. They have that gritty mentality. But it's different when you don't have that player in the lineup every day, like a Ronald Acuna Jr. And I do think they miss his personality. It's different sitting in the dugout and pulling for the guys that are actually playing. But it's like they've never prioritized a very good player and their personality when they went to go get him. Now, look, we had always kind of heard in spring training and before spring training, but after the signing, that's who Jurickson Profar was. But he seems like more of the happy-go-lucky. Of course, it doesn't do you any good because he can't be with the damn team because he got busted for PEDs. So everything that could go wrong went wrong. But I've been saying for a long time, as much as you love the bats of Austin Riley and even Ozuna, they're not that boisterous, let's go get them, damn it. Enough of this. And there's a lot of players on a lot of teams that a lot of Braves fans hate. But you see it, and they don't have that bulldog mentality. Everybody hates Bryce Harper because he's kind of a jackass. But you see it in him. I've heard a lot of people complain about Nick Castellanos. That guy's got a bulldog mentality. And it's too late to go out and get a guy. But I'm saying that in the future, Anthopoulos has got to prioritize finding leadership. And if they're not coming up through the ranks, he's got to bring a leader in. Someone who is all about the damn W and not about we'll get him next time. It's a long game. I do believe it starts from the top. And I'm not talking about the front office. I'm talking about Brian Snitker. I've never felt like he's much of a leader. He hasn't been much of a leader. He won the World Series with the Braves in 2021 because a ragtag bunch bullpen caught fire, and anybody could have ran that bullpen because they all went out there and dusted the competition for a month straight. And when that happens, it doesn't matter what trigger you're pulling. It's all coming up gold. Well, now he's in a totally different situation because for the first time since he's been here, it is a bad bullpen. It definitely has some promise. I'm not saying it's the end all, the beats all, and a lot of these guys tend to end up working out much better in the end. I know for years covering the Braves, you see a much better bullpen in July and August than you ever did in April. I get that. But on paper, you lost Minter. You lost Joe Jimenez probably for the year, but at least until the All-Star break. And you're trying to tell people that the lefty-righty 1-2 punch of Minter and Jimenez are going to be the same with Dylan Lee, who's actually pitched pretty darn decent. I mean, he's had his hiccups, but pretty decently. And Daysbel Hernandez and Pierce Johnson. Those guys are literally seventh-inning guys, sixth-inning guys, maybe in the eighth. But typically, you want them in the fifth, sixth, and seventh. Fifth being the absolute worst option. A guy just falls apart, and you got to go grab someone out of the bullpen. But in the sixth inning, the seventh inning, the eighth inning, it's a different mentality because the guy that comes in the sixth and seventh inning, he's trying to hold the line. The guy comes in for the eighth, and I'm talking about because Jimenez was the righty and Minter was the lefty. They were expected that if we had a lead or we were tied to keep the damn game where it is. You come in and you're coming in the sixth inning, seventh inning, and you're down by a run, it's a totally different mentality. And it's guys with different stuff. Let's be honest. Joe Jimenez and A.J. Minter have more explosive stuff than the guys that we're putting out there now. So now you got Daysbel Hernandez, who has pretty good stuff, but he's very inaccurate with his command. You've got Dylan Lee, who doesn't have the best stuff, but he's pretty good with his command. Jimenez and Minter were normally lights out. And I know a lot of people would joke and make fun of Minter and blah, blah, blah. The guy was lights out. He really was. For a reliever, I mean, I think people have unrealistic expectations from relievers to begin with. I never expect a guy to come in and always pull up a zero because that's not baseball. That's not the way the sport works. But at the same token, you want a guy who's going to come in at the end of the game to represent something. And so that's where we are with that as far as going into the ugly, because I'm going to share this with you with the ugly.
We got on this team was a bunch of and a booger-eating moron. That booger-eating spaz make me want to puke.
All right, so, and look, the thing about A.J. Minter is I think the Braves literally thought that he was not going to be anywhere near ready till about midseason. Well, that's not the case. A.J. Minter has been pitching for the Mets. He's been pitching very well. What's he been sitting at here? His ERA. He's sitting at 2.16 in 9 appearances so far, and he is the left-handed setup man for the Mets. And they prioritized that, and they paid him $22 million, I believe it was, for 2 years. And I think the Braves just didn't want to go over that number. Okay, I get it, but when that happened, this is what is going to follow. So here's this thing, and this is the one that really will slap you in the face. First of all, if you really want to talk about the ugly, because this is the ugly part, What about Wednesday's game? 19 strikeouts. 19 strikeouts. That is pathetic. The top two guys in the lineup, Harrison Riley, struck out 4 times. Olsen struck out 3 times. Baldwin struck out 3 times. He's a rookie. I'd almost give that a pass. But 4 times, and you've got a guy hitting leadoff. I was going over the numbers during the off day. His swing and miss rate is much higher. His strikeout rate is much higher. His hard contact rate is much lower. Everything points to the fact that Michael Harris II is not a leadoff guy in 2025. Not now. They've got to drop him in the damn order. I don't care if there is a righty up there on the mound. They've got to drop him in the order. If you want to put Ozzie up there at leadoff, okay. I still say the best answer is to put Nick Allen at the top because the guy's just trying to get on base. And he'll let the Rileys and the Olsons and the Zunas and the Ozzies drive him in. And it's the best place to put him because he has the highest batting average. He has the highest on-base percentage for the Atlanta Braves. And he's got speed. So it just dumbfounds me. We'll see if they'll finally do it this weekend, but it makes no sense because we're always told that the whole thing's analytically driven, that their lineups, that the higher-ups hand the lineup to Snicker. He has no input in it, essentially, and he's supposed to. So if you're doing the computer spit outs, what year are you using? Because you can't be using this year because it makes no sense that Nick Allen keeps hitting in the 8th and 9th spot when he's got the highest batting average. Get his ass up there because where you have him positioned, you're either assuming we're coming out into the 3rd inning without a hit yet, and you want him to try to get on, right? Or you're putting him in there and you have a guy who doesn't have a big slug percentage, not a high OPS, to drive runs in. It doesn't make any sense. I want Nick Allen at the top of the damn order. And if he's not at the top of the order, he needs to be hitting in front of guys who are not getting on base. I'm not saying go crazy and put him in the middle of the order. I'm not saying he should be hitting in front of guys like Smurf and Wiz and Icehouse and, not saying all that. But I'm saying every game we see him, he's either batting 9th or he's batting 8th, and there's always some bozo who's sitting in front of him that is not getting on base. So that's number one, but this offense is just putrid. And they got to start getting guys on base, and maybe Verdugo can help that. But Harris has got to be dropped in the order. And I'm telling you, from what I see, and the numbers don't lie, he is a much more competent hitter when he's around the 6th area. He has flourished batting 6th in the Braves offense over the last couple of years. He's been a dud at the top of the order. And it doesn't do you any good to say, well, we got to make him the leadoff guy because that's the way it's going to be. Because in a couple of weeks, you're going to bring back Acuna, so you're going to drop him anyways. Put a guy like Allen up there at the top, so when you put in Acuna, no one's going to get their feathers ruffled, and you send him back down to the 7th, 8th spot wherever it fits. But this is what I wanted to bring up to you as far as the ugly. The Braves starting rotation is 25th in ERA in Major League Baseball with a 4.65 ERA. I get it. We've had some injuries, but that's ridiculous. They're 22nd in WHIP. And for the people who don't follow WHIP and don't understand what it is, WHIP is walks plus hits dividing by innings pitched, okay? So walks plus hits dividing by innings. What it really means at the end of the day is it means that you're putting guys on base way too much. So if you have a high walk plus hits dividing by inning pitch, it means there's constantly traffic on the mound, right? I mean, on the base paths, excuse me. Sorry, I had an alert coming from a radio station. But anyways, that just tells you that they're constant, and it shouldn't shock anybody who's been following the games here day in and day out on Braves Country Radio. And we love all y'all, and I'm glad that the Braves, I still think, have the best fans in the world. We sit through thick and thin. We may complain and moan about it, but we do. We sit through it. And we fight and we argue and we curse, but when it's all said and done, these are our guys, ride or die, and we'll be here every game. But you get tired of watching the same old thing when you're a Braves fan. The fact that, man, we don't score runs, we're making up for it by giving up a lot of runs. So it's a much more palatable loss if you lose the game 7-6 and say, man, damn, that was a fun game. But it's a lot different when you're losing the game 4-0 with 19 strikeouts on your offense. So I do think this is going to turn around too. This is not gloom and doom, but I want to put this out there. The fact that the WHIP and the ERA is that high for the starting rotation. The bullpen is 21st, and we all were concerned about that going into the season, with a 4.18 ERA. The WHIP is 18th. So we have a bottom third, you could make the argument if you put all the numbers together, of the league pitching staff, top to bottom, starting. And we haven't had that. I know a lot of people thought we had bad bullpens in the past. They thought we had bad pitching staff, but we were always ranked in the top 10, usually in the top 5. Last year, the bullpen was ranked first, second, or third, depending on the week that you checked in on them. So when you're not stopping guys from scoring, you got to get some damn runs. And that's going to be the key to this weekend, because Minnesota, they don't have a great pitching staff. Paddock's on the mound tonight. He's got a 9.49 ERA. He's going up against Elder with a 7.2 ERA. What can I tell you there? Take the over. That's the biggest thing I can tell you. The other thing is, tomorrow on Saturday, Sale goes on the mound versus Woods Richardson. If you haven't watched him pitch, he's a pretty decent right-hander. He's had a couple of bad outings, but all in all, he's been pretty good over the years. But Chris Sale should be the better option. And Sale's coming in with a 6.63 ERA. Now I'm going to get to the positive in all this here in a second, so don't, everyone get their head out of the oven. On Sunday, our best ERA of the weekend is going against Grant Holmes, but we're going up against Joe Ryan, who has a 2.45 ERA. If you don't follow American League Baseball, or you don't play fantasy baseball, or whatever, all you do is pay attention to your team. Joe Ryan's a pretty good pitcher. He can be gotten to, and from time to time he has struggled with the fly ball, the home run ball. But all in all, he's a pretty darn good pitcher. So we're going to need a very good outing on Sunday by Grant Holmes. I think we'll get it. We're going to need a very good outing from Sale tomorrow night. I think we'll get it. Friday night, that's going to be the kicker. Elder versus Paddock. We're going to have to outscore them. Even if Elder pitches well to the best of his ability, and this Minnesota offense is ranked towards the bottom of the league too in a lot of your major categories. But even if he pitches well, we know he's not going to go through the lineup more than twice before he's going to run into trouble. Even his best starts throughout his career, when you went to the third time through the lineup, you would watch Elder implode. So he's going to have the advantage because a lot of these guys have not seen him the first time through. Second time through, they're going to be making their adjustments. And if we can somehow tiptoe through danger if the first 2 times, great. But you're going to have to get the bullpen ready. And up, and you cannot continue. If you go out there and let's say we put a crooked number up to start the game. I don't want to see this nonsense from the Braves management where they're like, well, we'll let them go out there and just kind of twist in the wind and try to eat as many innings as possible because blah, 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 whatever stupid excuse they want to give you. The bullpen is rested. The bullpen is, we were off yesterday. Wednesday, we were never really in the game, so none of our key pitchers pitched. And you can make that argument on Tuesday as well. So our main guys have not pitched much, so they can be unloaded today. Chris Sale's got to be Chris Sale on Saturday. He's got to be, where's that 2024 Cy Young pitcher? He's got to go out there, eat nails, and give us 6 or 7 strong. And then understanding that on Sunday you're setting yourself up for a pitcher's duel. And I don't want to hear that, oh, well, we don't have a day off until next week. That's common in baseball. Figure out how to manage the bullpen. You don't have to, and they got to quit punting games when they fall down by 2 in the 4th. Well, that's it. Let's go ahead and bring in Bobo McGillicuddy. Get him off the scrap heap. Because we got to save these guys for a long season. You can't keep assuming this team's going to get hot. You have to force the issue. And that's where I'm at. Pick to click tonight. Obviously, this comes out long before the lineups, so I won't get into that until we do the lineups. But remember, y'all, if you are trying to watch the game along with us and stream it, it's on Apple. So this is an Apple game tonight. Tomorrow and Sunday are not. They are local affiliates. I thought with it being 7:15 on Saturday that they may be on Fox, but it doesn't appear that they are. It looks like it is what it is. But real quick before I dive out of here, I'm going to see if I can look at some of these comments and respond to them real quick. If you have anything that you want to hit up, I'm not going to go through. I know a lot of y'all are just chatting with each other, but let me see here. So, by the way, good afternoon to everybody who jumped in here. Appreciate to see y'all in the chat. Floyd and Hellion and World Drummer and John and who I thought I saw a couple other, maybe my eyes deceived me. But anyways, yeah, White Sox 4-14. The Braves are 5-13. Exactly. Basically, to put a cap on this, I do believe this is Snicker's last year, come hell or high water, whether he wants it to be or not. I don't think he's going to get brought back unless he turns the whole thing around and they go on a magical run and blah, blah, blah. But if he's got one foot out the door and already kind of staring at retirement, man, just step down. Let Walt Weiss take over. They can go find a new manager in the offseason. I know a lot of people want it to be Travis, but I don't think it's going to be Travis because I don't think he's going to walk away from the kind of money he's going to make as a player on next year's contract. You dig? It's kind of hard to tell your family you're going to walk away from an $8 million deal to go coach the manager, to go be the manager for the Braves, what would be equivalently peanuts. I mean, you could do a player manager type deal, but they haven't done that since the 80s. And even then it was odd. There's a couple of guys that come to mind, but we'll do that on another show on who I would suggest. And I really do, if that's what happens, if Snicker walks away, because I don't think they're going to fire him, y'all. I hate to tell you, but we could end up being 5-160, or was it 5-157, and they're going to go, well, he's really earned it, and they're going to let him retire with dignity. But when you're looking at this, I'm not ready to throw up the white flag or anything, but I do believe this is his last season. And for all the people that have always defended Snicker and said it's not his fault, man, at some point, it's the manager's fault. You can't keep blaming all these talented players and say, well, they're they're not doing this right, they're not doing that right. Well, whose job is it to make sure? Because I can tell you some right now who's a certified executive chef who's ran many a kitchens. I could never go to the ownership groups that have ran the restaurants that I've ran or own the restaurants that I've ran and said, well, it's not my fault that the restaurant's going to hell in a handbasket. It's really the guy working the fryer. It's the dishwasher's fault. It's the guy who ran the grill on Friday night. I could never say that. It's the expediter's fault. No, they're going to go, then teach his ass. Teach her ass. And if you can't do it, we'll find someone who can do it. So this idea that it's everybody else's fault but the managers, this is the only world where that's ever spouted. Try to pull that at your job if you're a manager or something. Say, well, and just constantly blame it on everybody else. That's not the way it works. All right, we're going to get out of here, y'all. Great show. And, yes, Swamp Boy, Snick has been exposed. But I don't think I felt like he was exposed before that. He's never done a great job of managing the bullpen. And the problem is with Washington, and I saw someone say this, but I'll put it much more succinct. We think Washington would be this great manager of the team. He really wouldn't. What he did for the team was he was a great coach. Because he could be the loosey-goosey guy who yelled through the locker room, made jokes, let his wisdom fly. But when you become the manager of a Major League Baseball team, ownership's going to want you to rear that back a little bit because you can't be everybody's best friend. And that's the difference. So because no one really took over Washington's role, and EY for that matter, we are in a mess because the guys they brought in, I'm sorry, but there's nothing that tells me that Tui and Goodwin are anything but yes men and bob along and okay, we'll do it this way because they don't want to rock the boat because they're thrilled they have the job, and I understand that part of it. Washington didn't give a damn. EY really didn't give a damn because they looked at it as we're here to win. And that's what that locker room, if anything else, though, the locker room is missing. We want to win at all costs. Let's go out there. Let's run through that damn wall. Instead, they just have they have a bunch of guys leading them that kind of loaf around the wall. Walk the walk, they look at it as the smart thing is to do the long walk around. It's so refreshing. When I watch games on our days off, and I was noticing it last night, and there was a team that I was watching. They were out of challenges. It was the Kansas City Royals. They were out of challenges. But the guy blew the damn call at first base. And as opposed to throwing up his hands and go, oh, shucks, there's nothing I can do about it. He went over there and he let that first base umpire know, you screwed up, man. You're going to cost us any chance. And at the time, it was an important part of the game. Now, look, maybe he should have saved his challenge. I don't know. I didn't see that part of the game. But I like the fact the guy was going to battle for his men. You think there's ever been a general worth a damn that with the oh shucks attitude? Leaders lead, and if you're not leading, you're a loser. And that's my take on that. And you can disagree with me. I respect other opinions, but I've made mine. This guy just lets it happen to him, and you gotta fight. Some bully walks up to you and pushes you. There are people there that will look. They'd rather not to get into it, to walk away, da 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 da. And then there's those of us who go, "The hell's your damn problem?" That's the mentality that we need at the top, and we do need some players. Problem is, I don't think we have any of those. I don't know enough about Verdugo. But we need someone who's going to step on the metal and put the pedal to the metal and go, let's go. We can't continue to be 5-13. Because I guarantee you, if you're 10-26, you're cooked. And we have a 6-game homestand that can change this whole thing. We have the Cardinals and the Twins at home, and those are two rosters. They're not pitiful, but you should win both series. Bare minimum, we should walk out of Truist Park on Wednesday afternoon with a 4-2 record at home. And I don't want to hear any other complaints because I just laid out the weekend. Realize next week, and all these pitchers are getting an extra day of rest too. So that's the other thing. And maybe that's what this team's needed. Maybe, you're putting Sale on 4 days rest. You're putting all these other guys on 4 days rest, and they weren't used to doing that. Maybe this will improve their pitching this go around. But all these guys are going to be on 5 days rest. Even next week when it's Schwellenbach and it's Strider. And you could, in theory, at that point, because it will have been long enough, you could, in theory, drop Elder down and bring Shawver up. All right, y'all, I'm going to jam out of here. I'll sit here and rattle on because I get so mad about this stuff. But love every one of y'all, and we'll see you tonight. First pitch, 7:15. It's good to be home.